explain this to you, but I just have to show you as an example. So, like, what I'm saying is the reason why I feel like there's weird stuff going on, because, like, if you look at the state of my room, this is an example of what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like what's happening right now is it feels weird. Like, it feels like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the background. Like, there's a lot of background noise. And I just think that my reaction to what's happening is this, because I feel like there's so much background noise. And I do feel like um, this Italian lady has to be cut off, because I realized like she was a part of someone in my childhood, I think, because she was connected to the parents that raised me. So I do feel like I have to release her as well, because I think she was someone that was in my childhood that was connected to my parents at the time. But I do think that I have to release that because that chapter is over. But I do think that the state of how my room looks is an example of not only my transition, but it's showing that, like, I have my friend's cereal here, like, just sitting here waiting for me, you know? And I have, like, my folder and stuff like that. But I just think my reaction to this transition is kind of wild, because it's just kind of like there's things that have to be removed and released. And I do think that I never had a problem with communicating, but I think it's the way that I did it, like my communication, how I did it. But I know for a fact that I have to release all of these people, and I do know that people like what you call it, people like the parents that raised me, people like Miriam and, you know, dad and stuff, those people that raised me in my childhood, they're a part of this. And this is another thing, my information and wisdom, I'm going to expose it so you know how my progress is going. So I've just found out through prayer that the people that raised me, which is Miriam and dad, right, those two are part of Space Nation. I think that's like some type of gang related mafia in the UK for black people. And I just found out that my dad is a part of that community, and so is his sister Miriam. She's also a part of that, which I didn't know that, and I found out when I was praying. So I was just praying, and then God told me that through prayer, and I was like, I have to release them, yeah, because they're not going where I'm going. And secondly, I also found out that the Italian lady as well that was in my childhood, she's also a part of that community, that Space Nation community for black. It's like a black mafia. And so these three are a part of that community. And I don't have a problem with it, but it just shows that they're not going where I'm going. I think that that needs to be said on YouTube. But I also think my transition, this is the state of how I'm thinking. Because where I'm going is like new. And, you know, I just think that what's happening, I'm definitely accepting what's happening. And I'm fully aware of what's going on, and I'm accepting what I'm looking at. But I do think that it needs to still be talked about on YouTube, because it's showing my understanding and knowledge about what's going on. And I do think that before I was not able to talk about these things because, number one, I didn't know, and secondly, I wasn't really understanding properly. So I do think this is showing my understanding of what's happening in my life at this current moment. And I do think that now I'm getting that the people that raised me in my family, like Miriam, my dad, the Italian, they're also part of the Death Row Company. So they're a big deal. And also it's a lot of things that, a lot of communities that they're a part of that I'm not allowed to keep them in my life for those reasons, because of those communities that they're in. And I do think it's because of where I'm going, they're not going there. So I do think that this is the reason why these things need to be exposed on YouTube, because it's showing my understanding. But also, not only that, I'm fully aware that there's a lot of things that happened here in this house, and it needs to be exposed on YouTube because it's showing my growth pattern. And I do think that everyone does grow differently, but the fact that I'm able to process and communicate this information on YouTube, even my friend did, well, she can see like this is showing my communication to my experience that I experienced in this house through my childhood. And it's not only about the childhood, but it shows that you accept and understand other people's journeys, even if your childhood experience is finished. I understand where my family is and where they're currently at and the life that they're currently living and how happy they are in their ways. So it's not just about me. I do understand that they're happy in where they are in their life as well. So I do think that that's also showing my understanding. So I do think that what's happening now is I'm getting an understanding on not only my childhood, but I'm getting an understanding on my parents' childhood, their experience, and where they are currently and how they're happy with where they are. And I do think that I've accepted that as well. That's something that I did accept. But I think it definitely took time. But now I'm getting to a point of communicating that because I've came to a point of understanding. So I do think that now that I'm able to communicate about what's happening in my life, this is how I know I'm able to move on, because I'm able to make a video and talk about these things publicly without feeling, not comfortable with it. And I do think that previously it wasn't necessarily about not being able to do this, because I think it was just like I wasn't in the right state of mindset previously. So I think that was the problem before. But now I do think that I'm able to understand that everybody's journey is different, and their journey and their pathway is not the same as mine. And where I'm going, they're not wanting to go there because where they are currently, they're happy in their ways and where they are. So that's what I've accepted. So it's not just my journey. I've also accepted their journey and where they're currently at and how they're happy with where they are in their lives right now. And I do think that that's another reason why I'm making this video, because it's showing my understanding not only in my growth, but in someone else's growth in my family as well. So I do think that progress has definitely been made. I've been taking creatine, multivitamins, vitamins for, what is it called, Candida. I've been taking vitamins for that. I've been taking collagen supplements, water. I've been taking many fiber and stuff. So I've definitely made progress in my life. And before I was never at this level that I'm at right now, where I was able to deep blow, drink water, feel good. So I was never at this point that I am right now. So I do think that things are definitely changing. And also, where I was previously in this house, I was actually constipated, unwell, so I didn't really have this energy that I have right now. So I do think that things have changed, and I do understand that not only that, but the people that raised me, so the one in my childhood that I have pictures with, he's now received Diddy's blessings. So Diddy has given everything that he owns to my dad, because he knows that Diddy is basically not coming out of prison. He's going to be dying in New York jail or something like that. So my dad is basically taking over his spot and his position, and he's taking over everything: his house, his car, his money, his resources, his children. Everything is now belonging to him. So now I fully understand. How did I know that? I found out through prayer, through reading the Rema. That's how I found out about this information. And also, I do know as well that that's not Miriam's blessing. That's my dad's blessing. So because that's his blessing, she basically wanted to take that, but she can't, because that's something that God gave him only. So I do think that the reason why I'm knowing this is because I've been praying, I've been reading the Rema, so God has given me a lot of wisdom about what's happening here. And I do think that also the Coen twins are the one that raised me, which is my brother's dad. That's his new daughters. So the Coen twins is his new daughters today. And that exchange was made a long time ago. And I do think also, not only that, but they're a part of the Coen twins, which are my brother's dad. They're a part of Space Nation in the UK. They're part of that mafia in the UK. So I think that also needs to be said as well, because maybe some people don't know about this, or this is not something that's being talked about, but it does need to be talked about. And I do think also, that was some information that I was getting when I was praying. I was getting information like that. And secondly, because I've been praying a lot, I've been getting a lot of wisdom about these experiences and the things that have been happening. I also know that Pastor is now with his new family, which are the Cohn twins, even the son. That's his new son, those are his new daughters and son, and they are now with the pastor Emmanuel. So he's also taken over the Cohn twins and, his dad's new son as well. He's joined that church of community because they're part of the Space Nation community, which is a mafia in the UK. So I do think that all of these things are being released because I know exactly what's going on. And it's not just, so specifically Miriam is a part of Space Nation Mafia, but she's not a part of Diddy's family. That's separate. Those two are separate. So basically his dad has taken over Diddy's family, which is his family, because it was a prayer that he made, and this is the blessing that's being released for him. But Miriam is not a part of that blessing. She's only getting the Space Nation Mafia because that's maybe something that she grew up with. But for her brother, which is his dad, he's not correlation. Well, he gets both because he's a guy. So he's technically getting the Space Nation Mafia on top of Diddy's entire family, resources, housing, keys, cars, everything. He's taking all of it because Diddy's not getting out of prison, so he's probably going to die in prison. And so because of that, his dad is basically entitled to everything that he owns to be a replacement. And because of that, there's people in his family that are upset. But secondly, specifically Miriam, she wanted to join Diddy's family when she found out his dad was taking over. But God is saying that blessing is not for her. She's only in charge of her Space Nation community mafia. She's not getting the blessing that his dad is getting. That's specifically for him and him only. It's not for other people. It's not for other people in his family. That's just for him and his new kids that he has, and that's it. And I do think that now that I'm saying this is probably going to bring a lot of closure to a lot of people, because these were things that God was telling me through prayer. And also, the Italian is not entitled to his family. I think she's a part of the Space Nation Mafia in the UK, but she's not entitled to his dad's new family. Nobody's entitled to that. That's just for him, his new family. But the Space Nation Mafia, Miriam is in that community, and so is his dad. But he recently joined it, or he grew up in it as well. But I do think that that mafia is known in the UK, but it's also now being joined with the Cohn twins and his dad's new family. And so that's the reality of what's going on with that. And I do think that also needs to be exposed, because not only is there investigation, there's investigation going on right now. And I do think that's a good thing as well, because it's going to close everything out. And then after that, I think that's really it. I think I've already touched up on a lot of stuff that needed to be said. But now that we've gotten to this point, now things are coming to an end. And I do think that it's a good thing, because it's opening doors and it's closing them. It's closing doors and it's opening doors. And I do think that where I'm at currently, this is a door that's being closed. And I do think that it's a good thing. And I also think the experience that I've had here, I now have the wisdom that I didn't have before I came here. So I do think that specifically this house, and I think now that I'm leaving this house, I do think that my life is getting better and it's improving now. And I'm actually finding like community people that are the same as me. And I do think that I'm really excited about that, because I know that it's going to be different for me. And I'm like really happy about it as well.